way.
All right, just in time. The dog is sitting to look decorative for the Tuesday Alive with John Willis from Special Operations Equipment. Hi, John. We've got Pat Watson from Uncensored Tactical. Say hello.
Hello
I'm
there.
I'm Nicole Sauce from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast, and this show's been a bit of a few months in the making. We've talked about doing this on and off, but little background here. The first time I went to Jack Spirko's before Hollow Roast was anything other than a farmer's market coffee brand, I walked into a room full of basically all men at a prepper workshop. And the one thing I had going for me is I roasted coffee. And so that was like, people like coffee, so they liked me. And I sat down next to this cat named Pat Watson. He's like, "Have you ever picked a lock?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, here, do this." And I picked a lock in like 2 minutes. And he's like, "That's how safe your house is. How do you protect yourself?" And we had this really interesting conversation about that. And that's why I know Pat. But over the years, his life has changed a lot. So, Pat, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about like background and how you ended up, you know, in a box with a dog and fluorescent lights behind you, living a dream.
Sure. The 30-second background for my personal background would be got involved in the military very young. I wanted to use it to leverage that to get into law enforcement. The Coast Guard had a great law enforcement program, so I dove as deep as I could into that. I traveled the world a couple times. I fought Somali pirates and international drug runners. Very busy career. I was outside the country more than I was in the country for the years that I was active duty. Tried to get out and get a police job, and that surprisingly, with a crystal clear record and a banging resume, had some trouble getting into law enforcement. Went back into the Coast Guard Reserves, and they immediately deployed me full time. I went to Guantanamo Bay for a year. That's right after that is when I met you at Jack's workshop. I did get hired at a police agency after that. Spent a couple of years on the road doing patrol, everything from triple homicides to your standard domestics, and I had a slight moral change, a big moral change, leaving the military and leaving law enforcement. And the thing that made me the most happy and that I thought that I could bring to the world would be teaching people how to use the skill, not just informing, not just educating, but taking people that have never done a thing and then making them operational with that skill set in rapid time. So I like that. And for any of you listening that have spent time in the government or in military or even in any bureaucracy, it's almost like their training programs are designed not for mission success, but more for checks in a box. So my answer was, if I want to train at the highest levels possible, and I want to train people at the highest level possible, the government was not the place for me to do that. So I left. I started my own training company full time. And the nuance of how to train and then also how to use a specific skill, that's what brightens my life every day.
Great. And so I didn't see you for a number of years. Like, we talked a little bit now and then, but then you showed up at Self-Reliance Festival. You're like, "Hey, you probably don't remember who I am." And I'm like, "No, you're like one of two people who talked to me first at Jack's. I will always remember who you are because you made me feel welcome," which is probably one of your characteristics that makes you a good teacher. So what kind of things do you teach, like, rather than broad term?
Sure. I'm thankful for that compliment. Thank you. The types of things that I teach, primarily I teach emergency non-destructive entry. So for most of our audience, that is first responders, government, military, all those things, which is we need to get into a space to deliver some type of action or deliver some type of service, but we're locked out. And for most of the government, if you are legally / morally, those required to go into a space and it's locked, you can often go destructive. There's some problems with that, though. It's not always reasonable. So if there's an 80-year-old lady and she's fallen and she can't get up and she's not going to die, but the only way for you with your tools and skills is to kick down her front door, well, if you could have waited for a key or found something else out, you've kind of left her worse off because they're often on fixed income And now they don't know who to trust. They might have to call a locksmith who might do predatory locksmithing and overcharge for a simple service. And now her door's hanging off the hinges while she's at the hospital, so her house is getting burglarized. Down that rabbit hole we go. Non-destructive entry is a great untapped tool for first responders, but also for people that are preppers or survivalists or just people that want to be a better use in their community, is working on and managing locked obstacles, getting through locked obstacles without destroying them. And a lot of times that non-destructive entry can be just as fast as or more fast than destructive. So we have case studies that are stacking up that, I mean, depending on when you start the countdown timer, I can probably get through most doors faster with a coat hanger and a sheet of laminated paper than most tactical breachers with a battering ram. It's just a really cool, unique, different skill set that I am trying to bring to the world, but within our specific niche, which is using the skill during emergencies. So that's one half of life, and that's the other half right there. Seats. All the way, seats. Very good. This is a Fortress Canine dog. So you guys have had Joel on a few times, and I actually run a franchise of his company. And this is Arrow. She's my medical service dog, but she's also a Fortress Canine family protection dog.
Yeah. How many dogs do you train at one time?
We got 4 dogs on ground right now. 2 are personal, and we just got 2 brand new puppies.
I love that you have so many. You have to think about it.
That's kind of like when people ask me how many ducks or sheep I have. I'm like, right. That's a great question. One.
Yeah, we don't count them in tens; they're in hundreds.
Not too many. It's a busy day, but training 4 dogs a day is really not too different than training 1 dog a day for me. They just all do the same routines at the same times.
Do you find a lot of gatekeepers in that industry? Like, do you find a pushback when you're teaching people how to do this? And then the other side is, why are we teaching civilians how to do this?
Yes, I'm completely prepared for that question. We could go for 8 hours on that topic. So I get a lot of pushback on social media in the comment section about both the dog stuff and the lockpicking stuff. How dare you teach this? Or how dare you teach a dog to bite? Or animal abuse? Or now you're teaching criminals. The short version, because I've done dozens and dozens of hours on that topic that people can look up if they like. The short version is most of the people that complain about that, if we had an honest one-on-one discussion, you would find yourself morally inconsistent. So a lot of those people are more than fine to eat a hamburger for a cow that's born and lives in captivity and gets thrown into a grinder for you to eat. And they're fine with that. But having a dog on a leash, they go, oh no, animal abuse. And there's a lot of people that are super pro gun ownership. Ooh, that flex. All the way. Live. Very good. Super pro gun ownership. And they have the argument themselves of, well, you can use a gun to murder someone or to protect yourself. Same thing here with the lockpicking and the dogs. You can use lockpick to let yourself into your own house or let a loved one into their car or house, or you can use it to commit a burglary. It's not that you have information or a tool or a skill. It's how you apply that makes you a good or a bad person the moment of that application. So that would be my defense against that. Animal stuff, people are so emotional. The death threats are real every time the dog's doing their bite work. But what Joel has talked about ad nauseum with you guys, I have the same thing, which is our dogs are very specifically bred and trained for a very specific task. And it's not military work. It's not law enforcement work. It's not even really guard dog work. It's to be safe and stable with the family and other family members and babies and other pets and in public and under high stress, but also to engage in real active combat, which surprisingly, a lot of military and police dogs don't do combat. They're basically a detention device. They run, they bite, they grab, they hold. They detain someone. Our dogs don't detain people. They actively fight aggressive humans. So being super safe and stable and actively being engaged in combat is a very small niche that most of the dog world just doesn't understand. And Joel's statement for that, which is the same as mine, is that a lot of the dog world has taken up the sport world, which I'm sure you guys know. Talk to any gun person. If you go to an indoor shooting range and you do a shooting match, that doesn't mean that you are prepared for combat. Same thing with the dogs. The sport world thinks that a lot of them think they are combat prepared, but they are not. And that's our job. That's where we have our niche.
Awesome. So what on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say that people's idea of security, let's say their house or homestead, how secure are they really not? Like I just watched a video about a multi-tool basically that has 10 comb, looking locks, a 4-pin and a 5-pin. And they showed all of these expensive locks that you get from Home Depot, Lowe's, of which I have every one on the property. And this $80 tool opens every single one of them. Yeah.
This little guy right here would be very difficult to get through, even if you had a even if you had a power tool or a crowbar. This little guy gets you in about 6 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It's little thin. You keep this in your wallet. How secure is your property not? So there's what's the arc that they call it? I'm sure you guys will know it, but in the beginning you start learning about this and you go, oh no, nothing, everything's pretty secure because I can't get in if I don't have a key. So your secureness is kind of down here at this level, and you progress and you're learning more and you go, oh no, nothing is secure. And then when you get to the end and you learn even more, you go, well, yeah, I guess for the most part, these crappy locks do their job. They keep out the right type of people at the right times for the most part. So it's, I know there's a name for that. But most locks do their jobs. They keep people out. It's a step of, it makes things difficult for someone to get in if they don't have the key. But if you understand how to go over, under, around, or through those obstacles, then they're not really tough obstacles. I will show you a tool set here. I have one in my wallet.
You just so happen to have one in your wallet at all times.
So these two little guys, about the size of a large paper clip. This is a $25 set. With these, and with a 60-second crash course, the same crash course I gave you, Nicole, at Jack Spirko's. With a 60-second crash course and these two tools that cost about $25, you can open up, you now have the tools and the skills to open up about 40 or 50% of every residential front door in this country.
Yep. I have those puck locks like you showed in that assembly on a trailer, right? $95 a piece or whatever they were. Mm-hmm. The trailer can literally be opened and sliced open with a screwdriver. So that lock, it might be secure, but that thin wall, race trailer, it's just it's noise and time and, the chance to be caught.
Yeah. I had a pop-up camper I used to go camping in, and it came with a key and a lock. And it's like, well, you could just peel the Velcro back and
yeah.
I don't even know why it locks, but yeah, it's one of those things that the minute you think about it, okay, so like if you come up on a house as a first responder and there's the lady who's fallen down and can't get up and the door is locked and your lock pick dude isn't there, what would you suggest that the first responders do first?
Sure. We have an entire study about this. We just released 2 books. We re-released the first one, and we brought it a lot better photo work and artwork. But the second one is a brand new volume for what we call key generation. And it's for first responders and prepared citizens to be able to generate a working key basically out of thin air, which is really, really valuable. So just non-destructive entry at all, if I show up to a house or if anyone shows up to a house, believe it or not, I've been called out to scenes, either active in the military or active in law enforcement, where someone goes, oh, we have a lockpicking guy here. Let's have him show up and help us get in. There's it's not a large percentage, but it's a percentage of times I've showed up to the scene, and the way in was just twist the doorknob harder because it's already unlocked.
Or the other door.
Or the other door or the other window. Yes, it's very common. It's not 0%, but it's not a majority. But that's your first step, is do a thorough check and then a thorough double check. So within our training program, we don't teach a academic program. We don't show up and do a lecture and say, hey, here's the study and here's the PowerPoint. Okay, good luck, you're prepared. We don't do that. When I teach my private in-person training courses, the very first thing we do when we sit down, even before I introduce myself, we take roll call. We go, is everybody here? Yes. Pick up those locks, pick up those tools. This is how you open your padlock. And we get boom, boom, boom. In quick succession, people start opening their first lock. So part of that methodology is start with a case study usually, where we say, great, you used your lock picks to open this. All right, now use this different tool. this different tool on the same lock, and they go, oh, that was much faster. Why don't I just use this tool? And we go, well, there's limitations to that tool. It doesn't work on every make and model, but the slower one works on many makes and models. So now you can start weighing decisions. This is the nuance of craft. And then we show another option, which is even if you don't have tools at all, you can do this, and it's the fastest method. And so we start showing people that it's not just lock plus tool plus technique equals entry. It's the systemized approach of how you solve a locked problem. So academically, it would be, I have lock picks, I have a lock, let's make it open. In the real world, it's someone in there needs our help, but we're locked out. Let's get them help. So lockpicking is kind of in the background of the problem. So if you can smash a window and that's appropriate, do that. If you can find an unlocked door somewhere else and that's an appropriate method, do that. So we teach the brain part, which is, yes, you'll learn tools and techniques with us, but the brain part is so important, which is how do we manage this obstacle and can we leverage our skill set? Because sometimes the best lockpicker in the world, if he went to an emergency call out and the answer was find the open window, well, he would be negligent if he stopped at the front door and spent 10 minutes picking the lock. That would be wrong. So if you can just find an open window, you win. So that's really, I think, where we specialize. And the best thing that we bring to the world is how to think differently and how to apply your skill set, not just in a classroom, but in the real world. I think I might have gotten off track there.
Yeah, that was actually...
Remind me.
There is no track.
Yeah, that's the best part about these. There's no like rule about what we have to talk about. A and B, the mindset part of any learning situation is always more important. Like why I have liked taking training at Tactical Response is I learned some skills there, but the mindset reminder is super helpful. And you know, when you're in a situation with somebody who's been in a lot of scenarios like you have, I love to say, okay, in this situation, this is what I think I would do. Would that be the right way to go? And then we debate it. And usually the answer is maybe not. These are the things I would think about. And that's like those conversations I find are the most educational. So yeah.
The book looks badass, especially the revision with the way you have the tab set up in there. Now, I heard that's available in August. Is it currently available anywhere else? Can it be had directly from you?
Our two new books that just came out are available right now through our website. The ebooks should be available on iBooks for Apple and on Amazon's Kindle. I'll grab them for you real quick.
But they should have, you guys should buy the hard copies. The ebook's going to be of no use if something happens to this.
Yeah, that's kind of like the Encyclopedia of Country Living. Get the hard copy. Are you bringing these to SRF?
I will bring a few. Yes, absolutely. And they were designed from scratch to be handheld references on a bookshelf. So you get the most out of them if you have them physically, but they're useful if you read them. But this was, if you're asking the author, which is me, for the design, they were designed to be held in your hands. Like John said with the tabs. So the tabs on a screen don't, on the page edge of a screen don't really do you any good. But here, if you want to flip through and you're looking for something specific, these colored tabs are a big deal. And we also designed this book to serve a lot of purposes. And that's another thing that we're moving much more into is being a media company or a publishing company. So we'll still train, we'll still do the dogs, we'll do the lock picking. But I love bringing books to the world. And there's a lot of people, especially in the tactical community, that they don't have an outlet for publishers that understand their language or their audience. So that's something new we're doing, starting with, we're working on a project with Joel right now to get one of his K9 books written. But we designed these books to serve. Go ahead.
Where do they buy those books at, Pat?
Sorry. These are available on my website, which is uncensoredtactical.com.
Everybody should open another window right now.
Check the market.
You guys should open another window right now and purchase these. And let's show Pat how many we can actually sell. Amanda, I would appreciate if you would order a set for us, please.
Yep.
I'm honored. Thank you very much. In the order comments, please let me know where you came from or how you found us. That would be a big deal. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you are having trouble finding the website, I just flashed it on the screen, but it's also in the notes of today's show. Like if you go to the more, it's already there for you for reference. Uncensoredtactical.com. Yeah, I'm really excited about your new book.
Thank you.
How long How long from the thought of building the book did it take you to actually have a product ready to go? How fast? Like, I have no idea what's involved in that.
I love that. That's the biggest area we're moving into. So I love that question. Thank you. It depends on when you start your countdown timer. So if you say from idea of book into having the physical book, maybe 10 years. But that was knowing that I wanted to be an author early in life and then working my ass off for 10 years, gathering data, gathering case studies, training people, failing, succeeding, failing, taking other people's courses, traveling the country and teaching, struggling to get my first classes filled. So 10 years. But from sitting down and writing the first Word document, starting the typewriter and then having the book published, that was maybe a year and a half-ish. And then there's starting of writing to finishing a draft. That's 6 to 9 months. And then there's finishing the draft and then doing all the behind the scenes work to get published. That's 6 to 8 months. But it changes too. So with each new book that we release, we're getting better and faster at it. So there's some estimates for that timeline. But I'm also surprised too. I think I did an episode, which the surprises I learned about editing and book publishing, which is I didn't know there's more than one type of editing. So when you take a draft that's finished and you go, I typed up the thing, yes. Then you send it to a content editor, which is kind of like they shape the book. Like, is the head in the head? Is the left arm on the left arm? Is the right arm on the right arm? Do we need to switch these around? Do you have 3 legs instead of 2? So they kind of shape the book. Then you have people that do your punctuation, your spelling, your grammar. And then you have a proofreading editor that goes line by line, making sure there's no mistakes, pre-release. So all those different edits. And then you have a technical editor, which is someone either in your field or willing to learn about your field that makes sure that there's no errors in, did you call this tool the wrong name? Oh, we caught that, which is something a normal editor might not catch. So all those different processes are really important. And to bring it back to the tactical world, if you want to write a gun book or a fighting book or a dog book, it's tough to find a one-stop shop that can understand you and your language and your audience. So again, I'm very excited to bring that to the world. But yeah, lots of steps in the editing process. We're very good at it, and we care very much about what we do. And that's something you can't get with a big box warehouse.
That's pretty cool, man. Now, you said typewriter. Did you actually ever format anything on a typewriter? You didn't actually use a typewriter, did you?
No. But
are you Gen X? I didn't think you were Gen X.
I always say I'm gonna write a book, but on a typewriter. But I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to break into a museum and every night author my book on a typewriter and then leave the museum.
You could write a book about breaking into a museum and using a typewriter to write a book.
Absolutely. We do a little bit of urban exploration stuff. And as you know, you're not ever supposed to be in any of these places, despite the fact that nobody has been in these places for decades. But there's always, we end up in some building which leads to a tunnel system, which leads to 6 hours later, you're in a different building. And inevitably, when you're ready to leave the building you are now in, you're not quite sure how you get back to the open part of the building.
That's so cool.
So being able to escape the building the second floor is always unlocked. You can always get in, a public type building from the second floor, always, no matter what, almost 99% of the time, which means you can get out also. But it'd be nice to just be able to open that closed door and leave no trace of it.
Yeah. That's the nice thing too about non-destructive entry for an emergency is that, especially in the fire service, they have, what do they call it? The blowback or the, there's a term for it.
They got that blow up, the pump.
It's how much oxygen goes from one room to the next, the flow or the blow. I forget the term, but I'm sure there's a firefighter watching right now screaming.
Yep.
But the ability to recapture a door once you get through it is really important for them specifically to control a fire. So they don't want to just plow through the door and leave it on the floor. They have a lot of techniques that they're very, very good at to get the door open, but then to be able to close it again if they need to. But if you destroy the lock in that process, yeah, you can swing the door shut, but wouldn't it be much better to latch the door shut and just turn the handle?
Right, without wedges or pumps or anything.
So this is this is just an incredible skill set, and especially for the homesteader too. It's just an incredible return on investment. A good metaphor I like to use is in the same way that if you spend time turning wrenches on your own car and watching YouTube videos and buying some tools and figuring things out on your own car and learning how to work on your car. That doesn't necessarily make you a mechanic, but if you do that for a while and if you put in the time, it can help prevent predatory mechanics from going, oh, well, yeah, they really just need a spark plug, but we're going to charge you for this and that and this and that. But if you're well informed, you can go, no, I need this right here. What's the cost of that? So lock picking and locksmithing is the same way. So we just released our homestead locksmithing course. We just completed it. It will be released very soon. For the homesteader to say, well, if you have one key that gets broken off in a keyway, that could stop your business operations for the day. It can stop your homesteading operations. If you don't have the ability or the capability to break down a door or find another way in, there could be animals that get sick or die. So all sorts of problems can be solved by being able to get through a locked obstacle. But there's a lot more problems too that can be solved by being able to generate and change out your own locks and keys on your property. And you don't have to be a locksmith to do it. The same way you don't need to be a mechanic to work on your own car. It helps in certain areas with certain specialty cars and certain high-end stuff, but you should be able to change your own battery, change your own oil, fill up your own tires, things like that. And so we created a course for the homesteader to do that equivalent, which is, how do I get a key out of a lock if it's broken off? How do I change a keyway? How do I rekey these locks? And a little bit of how do I slip through this lock if the latch is stuck, things like that. And again, I love the gun world, but you can spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and hours learning how to use a gun. Well, it's very important to support that. The monetary and energy level return on investment might be a zero at the end of your life. Whereas this skill set, you put this into your toolbox, and I guarantee you it's a positive return on investment, and it just keeps going up and up and up throughout your life.
I see guys in the comments talking, shotgun doors and, we know water charges and data sheet and pushing and cutting and all of that, but we go a lot of places where that won't work. And yes, I have a Halligan tool and a mini and I've got all the pries, but when you successfully have come out of these buildings after half of the day and law enforcement does stop you, you now have burglary tools. Whereas the other, you have a couple of little things, and if the conversation goes well, you're never going to be searched anyways. But if I'm walking out of there with a backpack and it's got a Halligan tool in it, there's going to be some questions as to where we just were. They're going to know.
Yeah, as Sky Pirate and I both like to say, context is everything. So there's a trade-off too. So why don't I just use a battering ram? Well, let me return the question to you, person in the comments. Do you carry a battering ram everywhere you go? Well, I have one in my car. Okay, is your car always at the same place as you? So this skill set, again, with my wallet, this is my personal wallet that I just keep my ID and my cash in. But it also has like $200 worth of lockpicking tools in it. And those tools can get me through hundreds of thousands of locked obstacles almost immediately, wherever I'm at during the day. So yeah, it's a great option with a huge return on investment. I mean, not even the monetary side, but the time that I don't have to wait for someone else to help me with the problem. Huge return on investment. The self-reliance, the self-sustainability, the ability to not be at someone else's whim, hoping or waiting for someone to solve a problem for you is amazing. It's just really useful. Yeah,
nothing beats a Broco cutting torch. But are you gonna carry that thing, 10 blocks or hike in miles to some abandoned building with that thing? And then if you do get compromised, you're probably not going back to get it anytime soon.
Yeah, I've always had a practice of leaving an extra key at a neighbor's house rather than hidden outside my house. And the one time I locked myself out of the house, my neighbor had lost it.
I just spent $75 to get a girl's keys out of the car next door that she locked in at the gas station. And she still doesn't have a spare key, which would cost $5. That was a week ago. And I asked her yesterday, do you have a spare key? Of course we don't have a spare key yet. And this is the third time she's locked the key in the car.
So that too, with our homesteading locksmith course, you might still have to spend money to solve a problem, and you might still have to go to a locksmith to solve a problem. But imagine these two scenarios. Number one, there's a key stuck in my door, and I can't open the door because there's a key in the door. And even if I have a copy key, I can't put that in because the old key is wedged in. Calling a locksmith to you especially if they're predatory, and they go, oh, we're going to have luck for me, which means, oh, you have to pay me to install it, which means, oh, the door's stuck until I open it. We did a video in our course of that exact problem, which is I slipped a latch and I get the door open. That's a lock picking method used to help me solve a key problem. Then I use a key removal tool, which costs about $6. Pull the key out. Then I copy the key in real time. I copy the key in real time. And I have a secondary key that fixed the old broken one. I have the door open. I have the lock taken off, the lock put back on. Walking away, that cost me, with tools included, $15. So if I call a locksmith, yes, they'll solve the problem, but that's maybe a $200, $300 call out for a locksmith. So even if you're still paying money, you're paying way less money to solve a problem. Or even if you just need a key copied, calling a locksmith to you to copy a key, $200, maybe $100, maybe $50 if you're really lucky. But if you go to a locksmith and you have a piece of paper that says, I need a key cut to this measurement, boom, that's $2, maybe $3. So even the same service, if you can bring it to them with some knowledge and some background info, instead of them coming to you to solve it organically, huge scale tip in your return on investment for how much money and time and energy you spend.
We do a lot of antique stores and antique auctions and stuff, and there's probably a dozen times that I've seen the copy key machines available for sale for not very much money. You know, some old guy passed away and his family has his stuff sitting in an antique mall now, and you literally put the key in and it makes it on the profile. All you have to do is have the profile key, and most of these things come with hundreds of these profile keys. So there's a whole world out there people have no idea that exists. When you start looking at picking locks, you find lock sport, and then you find these subgenres called crypto burglary, and you find all these. There's a whole world. Guys come from all over the world to like the Super Bowl of opening locks. Something I don't know if you. I'm sure you know how to do it, but you should bring a safe out here, or we'll just go to Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever, buy a safe, and cut that bitch open and show people how unsecure safes really are.
I happen to have my.
You have a visual aid.
I swear this was not planned, guys.
Yeah, that's part of the fun, though.
This is just my work desk.
I know as a landlord, I end up having to change keys every time a tenant goes out. I mean, I don't have to, but that's the right thing to do. And I discovered they make doorknobs that you can, like, with just an extra little tool, rekey yourself. But then you have to reshape the key before you do it. What I did before then was just always, I had sets of them in bags, and it was like a rotation that happened. So like this one's already been on that property, so it'll be on another property next time, that sort of thing.
I love that, because even a good return on investment to make your life a little better, just to adjust the dial, is some people, they think they're stuck with the lock and the key that they were given or that they purchased. Well, no, not necessarily. You can change a lot of your locks and keys out. So if you have a keychain with 30 or 40 keys on it, homestead or business or whatever, you can change all that stuff, and you can boil down your key set so that your key ring only has 2 or 3 keys on it. So even just that, wow, I hate having to carry around this huge keychain. All right, well, let's slim that down. Go change those pins out on that lock. For safes, this little guy here just plugs right into dozens and dozens of makes and models of safes, and electronically just, boom, gives you a new access code, or it just unlocks the safe. So you just grab the handle, turn it, and then it installs a new access code for you. Thank you.
Does that remove the master code with the Canon safes and stuff we've just heard about, or Liberty?
I don't know all the specifications on this, but I have field tested it quite a bit. I do know that what it does is it allows you access, so it unlocks the lock by doing a brute force code attack. So it just throws all the codes at it. So you'll hear it buzz and click, and you open your safe door. But then it also installs a backdoor code for the user, which is really fast and really interesting stuff. I don't do a lot of safe entry. I just happen to have this tool laying around.
I was talking about just showing them how to cut through the back of the safe, just physically cut the thing open.
Yeah,
we can bring a grinder.
I have a very small community. We do, it's, as far as I know, the only place to do online covert method of entry or non-destructive entry training on repeat. So we meet twice a month for online live lock picking sessions. And I just had a guest teacher come in a couple weeks ago to teach about safe security. And he said that the biggest problem with criminals that tried to break into a business and open a safe with force is that so many criminals try to saw the hinges off. And what they don't realize is even with the hinges gone, the safe door won't come off. It's wedged in place. And I'm so surprised to hear that. I don't know anything about safe security, but he did a really good speech and just blew my mind with safe security levels and the way they grade that. Where'd my dog go? She's still on the table. Yeah. But I love, so just like in the gun world too, if you spent your entire life learning about everything in the gun and shooting world, there is no bottom to that skill set. There's so much width and depth to sniping and long distance shooting and historical guns and modern guns, and semi-autos and revolvers and combat shooting and pistol shooting and Olympic shooting, self-defense shooting. We have the same thing too with lockpicking. You have codes and code breaking and safe cracking and speed picking and raking and quick methods and slow methods and doors and padlocks and combo locks. We have all of that. And we have, what I have is the ability to teach people how to leverage that in real life. Again, not just the academic study of the lock. So it's just, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of a nerd. And this stuff fascinates me and has for decades.
I think that's great because people have no idea what's out there, right? Now they get a taste of it and they can decide which direction they want to go and how in depth. But I mean, you have guys opening locks within the first minute of picking up a lock and, a pick set. So like when we first moved to Camden, we went to Tactical Responses alumni, and Aaron Little and Gabe Kinderconnect were there. And my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old were opening padlocks within the first 5 minutes of living here in Camden, Tennessee. And those are two kids who had never even seen a lockpick, had no idea. The concept wasn't even in their head. So you can catch that bug, right? You can go learn how to plug holes and, kind of support somebody till the helicopter gets there, or you can take it further.
Yeah. Okay. And we designed this too. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole, go ahead.
That's
we
okay,
have a little lag.
Yeah. No,
I've designed this too. Not if a special forces unit came to me, and we're talking to some currently for some design options, but if an SF unit came and said, hey, Pat, we need you to design a gear loadout and a curriculum to train our guys to do this thing. I could do that, and that's in my wheelhouse, and I speak that language. I understand operations. I could certainly do that. But imagine if I took that and pared it down to a civilian level. I don't think it would make much sense because the logistics, the support, the operational usage, it's all different. This is not morality, like SF people are better than civilians. That's not the case at all. It's just that if you data point by data point, list out what they need to use it for and what their budget is and what their gear allocation is, they would have a specifically designed skill set. We started from the ground up to do, if anyone's big on the martial arts, kind of like a Bruce Lee method, which is we take a good foundation of a bunch of different things, we put the foundation together, and then you can always grow upwards. So our loadout is, here's these small pocket tools. Here's how you use these on scene to try to make entry with these small limited tools with limited time. Then we go bigger, design whatever kind of second line bag you want, so that if you need to go back and get that bag, then you have better options. And how do you apply? Well, do I start now with my limited tools, or do I hit the timer and then go to the car and get the bag and then come back with better tools? So these are all part of the game. This is the design. But we designed our curriculum from the foundation up so that a Navy SEAL could take this and then add the things that are appropriate to his usage, or a soccer mom could take this skill set and add or remove tools and techniques that fit their usage, if that makes sense. So it's infinitely scalable upwards and customizable person by person. But we didn't want to start with something like the policeman's non-destructive entry course, because then it would be something entirely different if we gave it to someone else, if that makes any sense.
It does. Okay, I have questions, and I'm gonna grab one. What is this? Lock picking lawyers gets into like every lock in 2 seconds. Well, that's not a question. My boxer lab, 8-year-old male dog, is highly intelligent and well trained, except for when his anxiety ramps up. Is there any training to help with that? Separation anxiety and storms.
Well, it's a lab.
Yes. I will give you a very short answer. Your dog will do anything you want it to do if you put the time in for the right type of training. The other part of that is you have to find the right type of training that's right for you. Just like if you wanted to do self-defense, but you took Taebo, which is cardio kickboxing, you'd be a little bit unprepared. So the same thing here. If you just have a couch dog and they get a little anxious, just call your local dog trainer that's going to show up and show you how to leverage giving them a treat and making them happy when there's thunder. Cool. If you want a family protection dog, my answer for that would be very different. And our answer for that is every single time it's raining, I take my dog out to train in the rain. It doesn't have to be very intense, but I treat the rain and the thunder just like business as usual. So thunder starts happening and I go, oh, hey, Arrow, sit. Hey, Arrow, lay down. Hey, Arrow, jump up on my shoulders. Hey, lay here and wait. And we just ignore the thunder. And so she's not stressed and vice versa. So that would be kind of my short overall answer.
I'm going to add to that if when your dog is terrified of the thunder, you go up and you pet him, and you're like, I'm so sorry, I want you to feel better. That actually reinforces the anxiety reaction too.
You're incentivizing their anxiety. Yeah.
Yep. Homestead Medical says, should we start with volume 1? I assume that's about your book.
Oh, yeah. So volume 1 is not designed to be a how-to book. There are how-to methods in there, but it's really designed for you to say, okay, I want to learn how to pick a lock. I can read the book and figure out how to pick 1 or 2 types of locks. Okay. But then how to apply the skill set. So that's sort of that's the foundational curriculum for how to make entry in the field. But yes, volume 1 is great. If you get volume 2 before volume 1, so if you want to learn how to cut keys, copy keys, and create keys, that's good. But if you're doing that without knowing how to slip a latch on a door, you're kind of carried before the horse. So a lot of locksmiths and myself and a lot of operators that are doing key generation, you're leveraging lock picking to get access to the door and the keyway and both to the door. So yes, I would start with volume 1, but we also have a video series that goes with both of those. So the Homestead Locksmith course goes with our key gen book, our key generation, and our volume 1 goes with our tactical lockpicking online video course, which it's like taking one of our in-person courses, but it's pre-recorded and it's one-on-one, me to you, me to the camera.
So you need a mega pass, Pat.
The real answer is buy both of them.
Yeah.
The guys asking the
buy
question.
It all.
The guys asking the question are well capable of getting both.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Mega pass. You need a mega pass. Just everything. One product. With the training. I think it'd be great.
I love it.
Okay. Just Home Alone, all locks can't be picked if red hot. I guess that's in relationship to the fire. My locks are cheap. Is psychological security worth it? Like no trespassing signs. Oh, this is a good one. Let's go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. We did a block of instruction in our recent Homestead Locksmithing course. And it's called, What Does Your Gate or Fence Say About You? And it's a short block. It shows a lot of different fences and gates. And you can do this method on your own. You don't even need to listen to the block to get the value from it. But drive around and go, oh, I see a gate and or a fence. What does that tell me? And if the gate is swung wide open and there's a bunch of people hanging out playing in the yard and they got, a walking path that leads right to their front door, what does that say? Well, that says that if I wanted to walk right to the front door, I could. Or you'll see some fences that are completely opaque. You can't look through them. And you'll go, what say about that property? And it would be, oh, well, they might not want me to see in, or maybe they don't want to see out, or something. So just looking at little things like that. Fence is designed, I can see the cows. This fence is designed to keep the cows in. Other fences are designed to keep in and out. The very, very tall fences that have that, but it's a little wider, but it's kind of squared up. So some of those are designed for game of all types. And some have spikes on the top, some have barbed wire. So all those things will tell you about the property if you're willing to listen. So psychological security. Signs are much cheaper and much more effective for your security. But a strong fence is also very effective if you choose the right type of fence for you. And there's really no wrong answer, but there's certainly much better answers. So you have to choose. I can't make that decision for you, but you have to choose, what do I want my fence to do? Do I want to keep my pets in? Do I want people? Do I want people to see my beautiful manicured lawn? Do I want people to not even know that I exist? So that first. But yes, there's certainly a lot of value to psychological security. So even a camera above your front door that's pointed down that doesn't work, not even plugged in, that will stop a lot of people dead in their tracks. So yes, as long as you're using your energy correctly or intentionally, I think you're on the right track.
And a single line of electric around your perimeter fence, which is where we're going, can really surprise people who don't know what that means. And if people who don't know what that means are messing with my fence, they probably should not be there. And I don't want them coming over the fence. That's something that you can even put signs up saying warning. I guess in the city, you're supposed to warn people about electric fences. Like in the country, it's like, well, I was keeping my goats in, man. If you can keep a goat in, it's probably also going to keep an intruder out. Okay, Pat, we're having a little bit of a delay here, but next question I've got here. Pat, can we get you scheduled to teach a class in Florida next year?
I would absolutely love to. We have used Joel's canine facility just outside of Orlando, Florida. We've used that before. I'm sure he'd be happy to do that again. We are trying to travel a lot less, myself and my family and my training team. We are very happy in Central Georgia right now. And we are blessed to be on a training facility where we live and work. So we're trying to bring people to us. But the short answer is if we can fill out an entire course, we'll probably go and train with that, but I can't do it for 2 or 3 people. Just the cost benefit work would be lose money if it's a small class.
So Andrew has a training school in Florida. You'll meet him. He will be here at Self-Reliance Festival, and he does some firearms training.
We know each other.
Cool. He'll be here doing a homestead patrol class after SRF here.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. Let's see. This one always comes up when we talk about Fortress K9. Bob wants to know if you had a chance to work with Connor, which is a dog that's being trained down at Fortress K9 right now. Have you? Oh, he froze.
I was, let's see, we were just down in Florida testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we got you.
I was just down in Florida last month picking up 2 puppies to train and sell. And I worked with whatever dogs. So I did do some bite work. We're in the bite suit. And I did work with some clients and did my annual upkeep training with Joel. So there's a chance that I let Connor bite me if he's there, but I can't specifically remember the dog.
Yeah, I met Connor because I was down there for a visit, and he probably bit you because I think he's still down there being trained right now. So
I think Bob takes delivery of him at SRF this year.
Oh, so you can get bitten by him at SRF, Pat, like just in case you didn't.
Yep. Happy to.
If you could only carry one tool pair, what would it be?
I think there's a slight lag, so I'll just keep talking through this one. If I can only carry one pair tool, it would be these guys I showed you earlier. These are called, just like the Bogota Mountains in Colombia, this is called a Bogota lockpick set. This is the used to pick up, not the identical one, but the same make and model of set that I used to pick open my very first padlock. And again, cost us $25, and it's life-changing. And it's small enough that you can keep it in your pocket. It's inexpensive enough that you can buy it even before payday. We sell them on our website. And it's also both ends of the spectrum where legitimate, super secret, covert spies, top tiers, Navy SEAL, Army Ranger operators also rely on that same make and model of set to do real-world operational covert entry. So it's there's a class of items that I always try to teach my students about, which is fits all the best top 10 lists of inexpensive, easy to carry, rugged and reliable, or easy to replace, highly useful, easy to get in on the beginner level, and also useful on the expert level. And that's the set that I would 100% recommend.
You can hide it in the seam of clothing.
Yeah, all sorts of cool things you can do with those.
Is that one of those sets of tools that
hide 'em
some
in your
states you're
clothing.
not supposed to have them?
The last time I checked, I was pretty sure that there's at least 45, 46 states in the US that lockpicking tools are completely legal as long as you're not actively using them to be in, obviously. But I think there's 3 or 4 states where I think Tennessee used to be the worst, but I do think they recently changed that because the last time I looked, it was that caution is merited. So the state laws either don't specifically address lockpicking, or the laws pertain more to locksmithing and things like that. So there's really only 2 or 3 states that you have to be careful in the U.S., but for the most part, completely legal to carry, to use for moral and legal purposes. Not a big deal. And
It's like
TSA
carrying
doesn't care either. You can go right through any airport in the U.S.
It's like a baseball bat and a glove, Nicole. You can carry a baseball bat and glove around with you, no problems. But the local area turd who gets picked up every weekend is going to be a problem for that dude.
Yep. But definitely have a glove with your baseball bat in your car, because you were going to go out and swing maybe a ball too. Okay, here's a question. I had it up on screen so you could pre-read it, Pat, just in case the lag's still there. Guys, he lives so rurally that he's on satellite internet, which means sometimes he's with us and sometimes he's a little bit behind us. Have you unlocked a biometric lock fingerprint? And if so, how did you do it?
My short answer is not unlocked a biometric lock. My backup answer is almost every single lock that has some type of digital or data access also has a physical access point that you can hack or somehow exploit. So even if you have a residential front door that has a digital keypad, number one, they'll almost always also have a keyway that you can put a tool into and you can pick the keyway. But even if not, there's still a latch holding that door shut that you can sweep that latch with a tool. So that's my short answer. I don't do a lot by way of electronic or digital types of security. I do have people I can leverage that will be folded into our training program to help us create content and classes on that in the future. A lot of people are asking, so we're going to provide that. But it is not my personal forte, so I don't pretend to be something I'm not. The other part of that story is I went to one particular covert entry kind of urban survival school years and years ago. And one of my jobs was to get into a structure, not illegal, but a structure that was locked that I didn't have a key for. So I chose a type of office, kind of hospital facility, and I went into their underground parking garage. You can access it just as a member of the public. You can just walk in. And I remember seeing a super heavy, super secure, like extra wide door with extra hinges on both sides and a super secret RFID card reader. This is like 10 years ago. And bulletproof glass on the big heavy metal door with a heavy metal frame. And there was a sterile kind of basement elevator room. Through the glass, you can see it. And I thought, ooh, I wonder if I could pick that lock. And I looked at the lock and I went, absolutely not, can't do it. And I looked at the latches and I went, I absolutely can't access those latches. And I looked to the side and I went, ooh, handicap access button on the wall. And I punched it and the door swung right open.
Oh boy.
So if you want to try that one in public, I don't recommend burglarizing anywhere. And I don't recommend doing it if you're to cause any type of damage or anything illegal or immoral. But if it is a place that is locked and you wouldn't be morally wrong for entering, go ahead and try and punch some of those handicap access buttons and you'll see how many doors override their security to allow handicap access just because of the motor system and the wiring. It's so much, and that's a bureaucratic problem. That's because your install staff that does maintenance is not your security staff. So they just go, all right, we'll put a handicap button in. And they just put the lines together. So button activates, door opens, and it will skip the RFID reader.
Awesome.
We laugh, but sometimes we do things like that too when we build things. But yeah. Everybody wants to know what the electric tool, safe opening tool is.
I'll give you the website.
This was asked like 3 times.
I'm going to type it here.
All right.
It's serepick.com, like the military, survival, evasion, resistance, escape. It's SEREPICK.com. They'll have that tool. And they'll tell you the lists of makes and models of safes that will open. You can throw that little e-safe opener tool on YouTube, and you'll see we've done an episode on it too on our YouTube channel. It's super easy to use, but again, you get to choose the tool and the technique and the usage for how you use these things. That's up to the user, not us.
Okay, so we're going to see you in like 4 weeks.
Yeah, so excited.
Compound. Tell me, like, what's your plan for while you're there? What's the big?
I've had this.
What's the big plan?
This has been on the tip of my tongue. So number one, of course, I'm helping Joel do some dog demos. So you'll get to see and pet Arrow and see how we work well together. And I'll be teaching people about how we do dog training. But my plans for our speech or our presentation is we're going to start just the same way we do our in-person classes. I'm going to say, hey, welcome. Give me 3 people who have never picked a lock before. And we will teach live how quickly and easily you can access this skill set. We're also going to talk about the return on investment for lock picking. So my plan is for however long the talk is supposed to be, an hour-ish, 45 minutes-ish.
It's 45 minutes, yeah.
I'm going to do some live demos, some live teaching, and then I'm just going to open the floor up wide open for Q&A. And I think that's really the best use of my time and the audience's time so that we can get directly tapped into who's using this, how they're using it, how they want to use it. And a lot of people too, I forget what it's like to be a beginner in this skill set. So I love fielding the beginner questions of, hey, can you pick every lock? Well, no, but you can do this, that, the other. Oh, okay. So short demo, live training, and then also just wide open Q&A. That's my plan for my presentation at SRF.
Awesome.
One of the things I like about your presentation is that it is both the skills part, which is germane to what we're doing there from just linking people with heritage skills or with skills they may not have, that you're then connecting it to, and this is how you can make money with it. And if I think about, like, in our network here, the one locksmith that is in our area, because locksmiths are sort of disappearing because Home Depot will copy your key for $2 or $3 or whatever. Yeah. He's also a homesteader. And so that gives him the flexibility. Like, he can be out tending his bees or whatever, and then he gets the call, come to my house, and that's like a $70 service charge, which is not out of line. Like, John just paid $75 for the same thing. And he's able to show up, but at the same time, he's able to have intensive time at home. So it's kind of I think it's a nice thing you could build for yourself as extra income while you're building your hobby farm or whatever your other focus is.
Yeah, and I have a disclaimer too, if he's watching. And I try to say it every time. I just was so excited I forgot. The predatory locksmith thing is the same as the predatory mechanics thing. Not every locksmith does that. I know a lot of friends that who've told me story after story of, hey, I went to this old lady's house and all she really needed was for me to use a coat hanger to slip her latch and open the door. And I charged her $5 for my gas and my time. So that's my short disclaimer. I'm not against locksmiths, but this tool is, like the mechanic world, something you can add into your skill set pretty easily at the base level, and then you can take that as high as you want.
There's something to be added to that, the predatory locksmith, predatory mechanic guy too. On Christmas Eve, your problem is not the same to me as your problem, right? So while my standard price of $75 to come unlock your car on Christmas Eve, everybody has a price. It's what that's going to cost me to get me to go do that when you want it done versus me going and doing what I want with my family on that time. So there's two sides, and I know that's not what you're saying at all. Also, having been to SRF, what would you tell people that might be on the fence about, because we get the guys all the time, man, I wish I could come. If you wished you could come, you would come, right? What would you say to kind of teeter them over that? Why should they come to Self-Reliance Festival, for instance, when they haven't been?
Sure. I'll give you one short answer, which is shameless self-promotion, which is a seat in my in-person lockpicking courses is $1,000 a seat. And I train special forces operators and SWAT team operators from not only all around the country, but all around the planet. So I will be there for the whole event, and not just during my speech, but in between too. You can pick my brain, and we will have tools and techniques and locks that you can put your hands on for just the price of your ticket to just show up to the event. I think, again, you've already gotten your return on investment just purchasing a ticket and showing up and just talking to the people that are there. We love the presentations and the demos and the tools and the vendors and everything. But I've been saying this since 2016, the first Spearco event I went to, which is the value, yes, is presentations, but just being there and being able to talk to these cool humans is worth its weight in gold.
Yep. Fellowship, community, and access also. When the cheat code is, for instance, Evan's having a 2-day Zero to Hero radio class on the Thursday and Friday prior. You could enter that class, you could join, you could buy a ticket to that class, have no interest in the class whatsoever. That gives you access 2 days early. And what that gives you is access to all of the people that are going to be here, most of which are here a day or two early. It gives you access to them when there's 100 people here instead of 1,000 people here. And we sit around and tell, big fish stories, and we do conspiracy theories, and we just have all those conversations every night. We all sit around and it's like around a campfire almost. And you have access to those people.
Yeah, although I believe that Evan's course is sold out. I am working with him to drill down on how many people can he really teach at one time right now. So
VIP access then.
VIP access. Get the VIP pass. That's selfreliancefestival.com. And then you click on tickets and there's different levels of tickets. The VIP pass gives you access to, we have a refreshment lounge that we set up for our speakers, and you can go in there too. And that's great. Plus we have a dinner with the speakers on Saturday night where it's, there'll be other dinners being served and entertainment going on, but also we have speakers, and I'm going to assign them tables this time so that it's spread out a little bit more. The first time we did this, all the speakers were in one place. So we're not going to do that again, but food's going to be fantastic. I'm super excited about the Salisbury steak, which has been my most requested thing that I've served at any event this year. So, which may not sound like a big deal if you're thinking Stauffer's, but this is homemade with grass-fed beef, and the gravy is it's thickened with freeze-dried mushrooms, so it's keto friendly. So you kind of get the best of all worlds. Okay, what do you call a naughty lamb? Oh, why are you that is so random, Dan, that I don't know why you put that up there, but you got my attention. Okay, why does Ellie not want vets? Because they are oath keepers. Anybody know anything about that? Ellie?
I'll go if you don't.
Yeah, you go. You go,
yeah.
John.
I'll take second.
You saw. Look at the last 3 years, right? Let's use Lori Lightfoot for example. You got to get the thing. If you don't get the thing, you're out. Who was most likely not to get the thing? Oath keepers, people that believed in the Constitution, people that upheld your American rights as a citizen. We pushed those out. What were they replaced with? They were replaced with yes men. What are yes men most likely to do? I was just following orders. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
I'll second that answer. One of the reasons I left military and law enforcement was this is kind of my published work about my 10 years of that experience. It's a short little read, little guy.
What is it? What's the title?
Fuck bureaucracy.
I love it. Yes.
Hey,
so this is out of print. I just took this out of
it
publication.
fits in today.
But I'll bring a couple with me.
Yep. When did this shirt come out, John? Was this week?
Last week.
Last week. Okay.
I mentioned earlier I had a moral shift in my military and law enforcement time. And it wasn't that I thought the term disillusioned veteran was a bad term for bad people when I was a kid, just kind of seeing that little nugget drop to media here and there. And then what I learned was, disillusioned means you no longer see that illusion, you see through it. So that's one of the reasons I left that field. And it's not that there aren't very good men and women that really want to help people. I know those people exist and they work there every day. But for me, I asked a lot of very big, very high level questions and had a lot of bad answers. So for me, I couldn't exist in those worlds anymore. So I left that behind in my past. And now I do the things that make me happy. I'm homesteading. Me and my girlfriend just started doing our first planting session at our new home here. So we're planting our own seedlings and getting that ready. We play with dogs every day. I don't have to wear a uniform. I don't have to put a name tag on. I get to hang out with cool people like you. I get to travel the country. So for me, I'm happy to give my life for someone. If I see, a child down the road getting beat up by a stranger, I'll make that decision and I'll go help them right here, right in my community. And I'll make that decision whether I get paid or not. But doing that day to day and working basically for politicians, and then realizing I worked for big pharma for 10 years and not really for the American people, that was a world I couldn't exist in anymore. So I'm very happy. I'm very thankful. I try very hard to give way more value than I receive from whatever community or whatever relationship I'm in. So sorry, I kind of went down that bureaucratic rabbit hole, but every once
Not
in a
at
while,
all,
I
man.
like to let that out.
Not at
Well-
all. A lot of law enforcement now is retaliation. It's political retaliation from those aren't laws that those people are enforcing. I don't have a law enforcement problem. There's definitely good law enforcement, and I've had good law enforcement interaction. But much of it is just, you're harassing the working man. You are nothing more than a tax collector for 95% of your, occupation.
Yeah.
Was there an aha moment for you that made you realize you needed to shift, or did it sort of happen slowly over time? Because it's always interesting to me when people kind of go, "Oh, new perspective."
Yeah. I've probably wrote most of them down. I love writing. I filled up laptops full of writing when I was on deployment. I just typed all day. One of my biggest aha moments was on a drug seizure operation overseas. I was on a counter narcotics patrol. I was on a very high level team, and my specific team in the unit that I was at, we seized more drugs than the entire rest of the Coast Guard combined, and Coast Guard seized more drugs than the entire federal government combined. So I was at as high up on a spear as you can get for just mass quantities of contraband seizures. I slept on couches of cocaine when I was deployed. So on one patrol, there was a person on my team, and we all had laptops and thumb drives of evidence and case studies and things like that. And one guy goes, "Hey, ooh, that back in place. Very good." And one guy goes, "Hey, some drug trade companies will put companies, might as well call them a company. Some drug trading organizations or drug trafficking organizations will put stickers, kind of like a logo, on their bales of cocaine when they ship them out." So one guy on my team goes, "Hey, I've seen that bale before." And we all look at him and go, "Oh, you recognize the sticker from the drug trafficking organization?" And he goes, No, not the sticker, that actual bale of cocaine, because we had seized a shipment. And so he opens up his laptop and puts his thumb drive in of previous evidence photos and goes, "Yep." He goes, "On a previous deployment, I seized that bale of cocaine, and here it is again." And I went, "Oh." And then years and years and questions later, I realized, I work for big pharma, not for the American people, because who does it benefit to not have marijuana or cocaine or pick a drug? But who would we be competing against if this was an entirely free market for drug usage of any type, alcohol, caffeine, sugar? And that kind of hurt morally. And then another very, very big aha, and I'll leave it at that. We're hours and hours on, is knowing that we could do the job better and seize more drugs and stop the trafficking, definitely and without question, knowing that we can do it better and being prohibited possible turn from doing it better. That was probably my best aha moment of asking the right question, which is, why would someone want us to not be at this mission? And then, being willing to have the answers come to you, even if they're bad answers, and even if that means, I was wrong. So that's probably my biggest nail in the coffin. And I left not because I became immoral. I left because I so badly want victims to not be victimized. I want bad people to actually be held accountable. But when you see how that kind of swims upstream to the highest levels and realizing, maybe things are backwards, I wanted to dedicate the rest of my life to me and my family and my community, and not to someone else's pocket.
Pull up Dude McButter's question there, Nicole.
Yep. Could the U.S. government stop drug smuggling in the U.S. if they wanted to?
That's another 10-hour question. The short answer is we stop, I don't know, anywhere from 30 to 60% of it right now. We could stop probably 99% of it if we wanted to. but the government doesn't want to. They have absolutely zero interest in stopping the drug trade.
The government's in bed on that side, and it's making money from the enforcement side as well. I mean, if you got guys
that's
sitting
not a
in
conspiracy.
prison, you have guys in prison right now doing life for marijuana. I'm not a weed guy, but we have guys in prison for life in states that have legalized marijuana. We didn't release those guys. The prison system is a slave system. You have dudes in there that are making 45 cents a day to manufacture a product. And then when the product is built, the federal government has to buy the product from that company, and they sell it at a price higher than you could buy it from Office Depot for. Those are all facts.
Yeah, no, there's no conspiracy here. Anyone could Google the fact that government operations are involved planting, growing, creating, trading, shipping, and disrupting all sorts of the drug industry, and then reselling, retrading, remanufacturing, altering, regulating, everything out there, legal and illicit. And so realizing that I risked my life and limb and paid the price on many of my limbs and part of my life. Another reason I have Arrow, a fantastic service dog, just life-changing. Giving all of that to a mission that I thought was righteous and morally right. Big change for me, but I'm very happy now. I'm very thankful. I'm very happy. It was a wonderful, wild experience. But again, to top it all off with a positive note, I love that I get to hang out with people like you, not because my mission demands that I do it or my boss tells me to, but I love hanging out with cool people. So that's kind of the silver lining on that cloud.
It's interesting how we start talking about drugs and we go straight into the prison problem too, where it's profitable to keep people in jail.
Well,
we can then pimp them out for like $4 an hour or whatever, pay or charge more and pay them hardly anything, and they're stuck in that system, and that's it.
It's the privatized prison system.
Yeah,
all of your politicians are highly invested into privatized prison corporations.
And if you think slavery doesn't exist in America, you can start there, and it exists a few other places as well. It's just
look up.
It's just not a new name.
If you want to see real slavery, just look at Libya. I mean, we caused that. The United States caused slavery currently in Libya of biblical proportions, like the time of building the pyramids type of slavery. It's out there to see. At least, and if you look at Gaddafi, that the country was under control. We toppled that and caused those problems. Most of our enemies that we will fight in the future and currently fighting were not our enemies. We toppled those systems. It's all through history. I mean, if you look at the CIA, what is the CIA really there to do? We've been sold. We grew up believing this system through movies, and now with social media, which can't quite be controlled by Mockingbird Media and the CIA, it's out of control. So what are they doing now? They're turning those people into enemies, and they're starting to suppress them. They are identifying them, they are suppressing them, and soon they will collect them. And what that means is if you look at the big names that they're after right now, then they're after the big influencers, Joe Rogan and Tim Pool and those guys. What that means is that we are only a year or two downstream from those people.
It's interesting to look at our system. So in my former life, for those of you who are new to hearing who I am, I worked for 14 years in public policy with a freedom bent. So the idea was less government is better, and let's actually change these policies so that they are doing what they're supposed to do. I became fairly disillusioned with that process too, because the system is set up not to work right. Hopefully Pat's resetting himself because I think he's frozen. But on the criminal justice side, what we were pushing was this, it's called restorative justice. And basically the idea is if there's a crime, then there's a victim. If there's a victim and somebody has perpetrated a crime, then the quote unquote punishment is that you work with them to do something restorative to the person they hurt. And if it's that they stole your car, you stole their car, then it's you restore the car to them. And hopefully during that time you learn, because usually when crimes happen, there is an underlying issue. Hopefully that underlying issue can be addressed. Or God forbid you killed somebody. How do you restore that to the family? There are examples of people who have had their family members killed who developed relationships with the people who killed their family, and over time, restoration was done. I mean, you could never bring somebody back to life, but it kind of delved down into taking action that way rather than the punitive system, which is what we have now, which is you spend this much time in jail and it's miserable in jail and we fine you for the rest of your life and you can't actually get an apartment because you have a felony on your record forever or whatever it is. We've always used punitive, and the research does not really bear out that works. But having a conversation about restorative justice in our system where people have kickbacks, it's a non-starter. It's the obvious direction you want to go towards, but it's a non-starter.
It's incentivized. The more people they put in jail, the more money they make, and the federal government gives them money. It's just like child support. The more money you can attach to a father, the federal government matches that money that comes in. The child doesn't get all that money. The child actually gets less than half of the child support money. The family, the child and mother get about half of it.
Yeah. Pat, you're back, right?
I'm here. Yeah. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Sweet. Anyway, so I can see why if you've been in
any topic.
Yeah. So I can see why if you were in law enforcement, that'd be really demoralizing. Because, I mean, I know from other friends that they would find somebody doing something and bring them into the system and they're back out in the street later. So that's hard. And then you see all of those incentives and paybacks and so anyway, I don't have a specific question, Pat, but that was just sort of going down the criminal justice is something I nerd out on. It's kind of like healthcare.
Yeah. Same here.
So Faith says an area of clinical
for.
mental counseling that I got very interested in was also trauma therapy for lower recidivism, but the system hates people getting out of jail and staying out.
Yeah. Again, I wrote a book that answers that, which is basically if you're going to have a bureaucracy and the organization that you're looking at is a bureaucracy, then what are the incentives for every bureaucracy? And those incentives are kind of very telling, whether it's the military or law enforcement or a hospital or whatever it is. If it is a bureaucracy, it will have a set of incentives that match across 100% of all bureaucracies, which is usually not good stuff coming out of that.
Have you thought about putting your books on audiobooks?
I get a lot of people that ask. I can do it. I just have so many other projects that are either more fulfilling or, give me a better return on investment or that are more pressing for time. So yeah, the answer is yes. I would love to do that. This one's out of print. I will hand you a copy of this at the event if you like. It's a short read, but I think you'll like it.
Do you think is that a valuable book? Is it something that people should read? Would it open their eyes? Would it educate people in some manner? Oh my God.
We've gotten so many emails from people that they read the book and they changed their life. They said, "Oh my God, I couldn't stay at my workplace a day longer after reading this book." And they went out and started their own companies and they changed career fields and they did great things. So yes, it's important. For me personally, there's a moral and kind of energy level expense to promoting these books and to talking about these books. So I wanted to spend my time doing something that filled my cup a little bit better. I'm going to write another one of this, a part 2 and a part 3. And at that time I'll re-release them. So maybe that answers some of your question, but I don't spend a lot of time in this headspace anymore, but just because the conversation went that way, I thought I'd talk about it.
So Neethi says hi.
What's up, Neethi?
she popped in. You'll get to meet her at SRF, Pat. If you didn't meet her last time, I can't remember. If you were at one where she was at, that's just the thing. That headspace thing is, I think that's a hard one to accept sometimes. When you're in the wrong headspace and you stay in the wrong headspace, you build the wrong things for yourself. But when you're in a bad headspace, you don't want to accept that it's literally the first thing you need to do is get up and take that walk every day and put yourself in a different headspace. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to hear you say that too. So,
well, thanks.
This is what you do full time, right? It sounds like you do what you want to do. Dogs, tactical, lock picking. That's what pays 100% of your bills currently, right?
Every day. Yep.
So what's the next move? Are you going to scale that? What are you looking to do?
Sure. So the two biggest ports that we're moving into here in the future. So the business is shaping, which I loved. The study of business was never something we learned at public school. Surprise.
Of course.
But now I'm doing the things I like the most. I'm doing the things I enjoy with the people that I enjoy being around. And one of the things that makes me the most excited, so I used to jump out of helicopters with ceramic body armor and a Kevlar helmet and a fully automatic machine gun and night vision goggles, taking down drug runners in the middle of the night, in the middle of the ocean. Super cool, secret handshake stuff. And that level of adrenaline dump I used to get from that, I now get every time I press publish on a new book. So if a friend calls and they're like, hey, I rented a helicopter, let's jump out of it. I'm like, I'm busy. But if I get the opportunity to go, ooh, we can take this book and turn it into 2 books and publish that next week, I'm like, yes. So writing more of our own books, we plan on having a 10-volume encyclopedia for the world of non-destructive entry. Still continuing. I love it. But the biggest 1 or 2 rooms we're moving into is publishing works for other people. So it's tough and it's expensive and it's timely to get a book written, but I really do like, whether it's our community or the shooting community or tactical community, 2A community, pick one. I want to be a beacon of help for them. So what we're going to try to leverage is some type of profit sharing in the future. So we will help you. We'll write a book. We'll ghost write a book. We'll get you published. We'll coach you through it. And that would help us by being able to slowly but consistently level up our passive income as far as business design. So if we can get 10 or 20 books out there for other people, but we take a small percentage of their royalties, that's a win for win. They have a book, they have a new product, they can leverage that for their business, but it also helps us in return. So that's one of the biggest areas we're moving into. The next area we're moving into is trying to capitalize the most on our in-person courses. So we're going to offer a lot of them, but what we kind of plan on being is really like a there's some people out there, like in the gun community especially, that are just recluses, and they go, we've been at the top of our game for so long, training so many people so well, that now we teach 1 or 2 courses a year and they fill up instantly and the price tag is high. So that's what we're shooting for. So we'd like to open our doors once, twice, 3 times a year to pay all of our bills in 1 or 2 classes. But we're very good at what we do. The only people I think that could possibly compete with us as far as up here is, I know there's some agencies that do their own training behind closed doors, but they're few and far between. And even them, I know that they are a bureaucracy. So they probably have students that sit there going, yeah, I'm learning super spooky stuff with keys and locks, but I just wish we could learn more or better or faster or different or more towards field application. And that's in here and that's up here. We do that in spades. So we are trying to leverage that to be the best in the world at what we do.
Do you know Ed Calderon, Byron Rogers, Craig Douglas, any of those guys ring a bell?
I took a course from Ed Calderon. And years ago, we had plans to do a collaboration course. We just both got busy and we don't speak regularly. But I think if you mentioned my company to him, he would recognize the company name. I had considered reaching out to him. I know he's got a new podcast. I have to binge watch the whole thing. I'm very excited about it. I've just been so busy. It's hard to sit down and do 10 hours of content from someone. But yeah, I know that world. I've followed Byron Rogers for quite a while on Instagram.
Cool. Yeah, Ed's in Tennessee a lot. There's some discussion of him coming out to SRF, so you might be face-to-face with him again out here.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool. So you want to be like Paladin Press. You want to be the modern-day Paladin Press without the straight line to the feds.
Yeah, and I think it's more importantly than just being a press is being really just morally. I couldn't do it to make money or to be wealthy, because if that's what I wanted, I'd be selling gizmos from China and I'd be doing advertising every day and I'd be a millionaire by now. I have no interest. So yes, I do want to be the next big press, but to foster a good relationship with my clients that lasts a long time so that they never look back and go, man, I regret that. Like, I want so badly to pack so much value into people, especially through the written works of good photography, good artwork, a well thought out script that speaks in people's own language. And there's so many publishing companies that it's such a unique language that each special community has their own language, their own audience. And I think the world of big book publishers, they see things through a different lens, which is how can we sell X amount of millions of copies and how can we get you on Oprah? Where my world is, how can I get you the best book to leverage for your skill set, your business, your community that speaks to your community? And a lot of people, I mean, it's easy to forget that or to look past that. That's the problem I had with my first publisher. It cost me about $10,000 to get my first book self-published. And all the problems I had with my publisher was, I know my audience. I know what I want to say. I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm fighting with you to get my work out there. And I've struggled. So that's the problem. I am a solution that I want to be for other people for that same problem.
Have you written any fiction?
That's next. So we have it on our docket. The outline is written. We have a lot of notes written. I have easily 30 or 40 pages written of scenes. But January 1st of 2024 is the day that we hard pin and we start the timer for our first fiction book. We're very excited for that.
Cool. So the biggest name out there for audiobooks for, prepper fiction, survival fiction is probably Duke Fontaine. There's a couple of other dudes. But even those dudes who read hundreds of those books, they're still like NODS and 556, right? They don't know 556 or knots, or it's just a trip to hear a dude who is probably the pinnacle, the tip of the spear for that genre, and he still doesn't know what the fuck what he's saying.
Yeah. I have a cute story to kind of turn that positive switch back on from the government stuff we chatted about. So my first publisher, they were based out of Canada, and I don't have a bunch of complaints other than they weren't exactly very custom. They kind of had their own thing going that worked for them. I needed something different, and their marketing and their product and their service didn't really match what I needed. Nothing bad to say about them. We just weren't a good match. At one point, I sent my draft to my editor, and the draft came back with notes from the editor saying, please change this, highlight, please change this, wrong word. And then one said, I see here that you wrote, quote, winner, winner, chicken dinner, and I don't see anything mentioned about a dinner earlier in the chapter. Can you please correct?
Yep.
And I'm like,
yep.
No, I'm not going to correct that one. That's going to stay just like it is.
Yeah, we got a friend that's New York Times bestseller. He's published by Penguin, and even those guys will tell you almost have to get co-signed by somebody already there. So if you're coming in and you've got just the best story in the world, if you don't have a dude planting that seed in somebody's ear, it's just like it just goes in a pile. I mean, the fact that you even got something back corrected on a big scale of a publisher is nearly impossible.
They were I forget the word. I think it's God, I can't remember the name, but they help you to get self-published. So they did all the publishing things, but at the end it was my book. I owned it. I took all the royalties from it. But paying them for the writing coaching and the design and the theme and the formatting and the layout and all that stuff is what I paid them for. So it was self-published, but they were a company that helps you self-publish. Very expensive, but I learned an awful lot from that. And one of the biggest things that changed my business 100% was leveraging books into my business. Just writing a book and pushing it out because they're so versatile. They can do so many things for you. But we took a specific, intentional, data-driven design to say, what do I want this book to do for my company? And we answered that with the book. And so biggest change, biggest growth, biggest improvement, honestly, life-changing.
It's cool.
And you ghostwrite, right?
Yes, I'm doing my first project now with Fortress Canine. I don't think it's a secret in any way. I mean, all of the info in the book is what Joel taught me to do with dogs. So we haven't worked out the details yet. There's some secret behind the scene info for you, but yeah, we are working together. It is all his information, it's all philosophy. I'm just putting it all on the page for him, and we're collaborating to get it published.
It's cool. It's definitely not a secret now.
I don't think it was a secret before because I talked to him about that a while ago.
You'll see. Oh, sure.
It's kind of fun to hear somebody who has decided what they want to do, started doing it, learned how to do it better, and now they're like, I say no because I don't have to say yes, which is yeah. Now he's wandering around in the background looking for something.
That's 75% of my day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we hear you say it, but it's somebody else who did it too. What's that? I can't read
So
what
there's
that
a
says.
super sneak peek.
Oh,
I don't know
is
if
that Joel's book?
we don't really have a specific privacy agreement, but there's a sneak peek of what might possibly be something like the cover for Joel's upcoming book. I feel bad now.
Is that
I was shooting from the hip on that one.
Is that a hardcover?
Yes.
Are there words in that book, or is that just for concept?
There's some chapters that are finished, but it's mostly a concept idea.
Oh, I was just curious.
Now.
Got it. I was just curious. I have no idea on the process of designing a cover or anything like that.
Yeah. So what I think is a much better method is a lot of publishers and editors will do a step-by-step version where you only focus on one part of the book at a time. And most publishers will say, write the whole draft, write the text out. And then they'll go, take some pictures. And then they'll go, all the pictures are in the book. And then they'll go, let's do the cover. I 100% disagree. So what I've been speaking with Joel about, I have coached a number of people into getting published, but that was all just free work for me to get, data under my belt for experience. And the process that I think works much better is what do you want your book to be? What do you want it to do for you? And we have to start with that before we even start the draft, really. So the title can be early or be late in the book, but what's important is, and I asked the word very intentionally, which is the experience that your reader will have when they put the physical book in their hand. What do you want them to say, and what do you want them to say first? So, I got this book. And just like, what does your fence say about you in our homesteading course? What does this book say about this book? Well, I see the artwork. I see the title. It's pretty plain. There's not even there's a little barcode on the back. That's it. There's no back page text with, statements from people in my peer community. Nothing. Just, okay. I see that it's a small book. I see that there's no pictures. What does that say about this book? Well, it's me, because I wanted it to be incredibly low cost. I wanted it to be focused on the concepts in the text, just 10 short chapters in the front, 10 very short chapters in the back. I wanted it to be read in like 1 or 2 bathroom sittings. So you throw it on your toilet seat on the back cover, and you go in there and you go, okay, let's read half this book. Boom, then you're done in a day. So do you want your customers to say, wow, okay, so they spent money on this artwork. Cool. Okay, well, does the title match the content? Well, let's see. And then for the table of contents, do you want people to go, oh, I see this is a very sterile bureaucratic list of a technical manual. This is how item A works. This is how item B works. Or do you want your consumer to go, oh, cool, kind of catchy little title for chapter 1. I wonder what that means. Oh, cool, interesting title for chapter 2. I don't know what that's about, but I want to read it. Neither of those are wrong, but you get to pick that path. And I chose to help my clients work through that first, so that you're designing the book with that design concept in mind, instead of writing the whole draft and going, okay, what do you want to do with this book? It just felt backwards to me. So that is, again, where we specialize, and we have been doing it for people just unpaid, getting a lot of experience and data and helping a lot of people through the process.
It's cool.
So, John, when are you going to write your book?
Oh, I'm not. Pat's going to write my book.
Well, I mean, you'll see him in person in 4 weeks. So you guys can get that.
We're very happy.
Out.
All our plans are worked out. We're super pumped.
Yeah. Yep. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again, too. So it'll be fun. It's, Soul Alliance Festival. It's a pretty big project. We'll be 6 months out, and it's like, okay, this is the concept. And then you have all of these big things that need to come together. And then there's always this moment about 3 months in where you're like, is it going to work? Like, is everybody who says they're going to come still going to come, and all of those things? And then like 4 weeks before it transitions, or 6 weeks before it transitions to the family reunion is almost here. I get to see all these people. I'm super excited. It's all come together. So, I mean, on the back end, that's what that goes through. And it's like that for every big project for me, where it's like, got to keep pushing the water uphill. Okay, we made it over the hill. So now I'm at the point where I get to enjoy the the idea that I get to see all these cool people, and then we get there and we do the event, and it's super fun. So I cannot wait. I'm at the I can't wait point of this. In fact, I'm also at the point where I probably have to drive out a load of stuff to special operations equipment in advance, so I make sure everything's there in one trip the week of. So
awesome.
Part of the fun. Anyway. Okay. Combat Art Training's leaving us. He does some pretty nice artwork, by the way.
So Combat Art is a training company and does sewing. I did not actually, I'm not responsible for having Pat on. I've been trying to get Sky Pirate on for 6 months, which is fucking impossible. And then I realized who Pat was. Pat's been here. I don't think I've really even had a conversation with Pat. He's been here at my place several times. The truth is, I watched all of his content this morning while I was working. I watched all of his short form content.
Cool.
And I'm like, holy shit, this guy's exactly what I've been trying to do with Sky Pirate. So, and it turns out they're friends. They're in a lot of videos together. They do some courses together. Very small world. So that is awesome. This is actually Nicole's doing, having Pat on here.
I think that's the fun thing about these conversations we have on Tuesdays is sometimes I bring somebody that you engage with, John, and other times you're like, hey, you need to get this person on, and I've never seen their stuff before, and then I go like binge watch their YouTube or whatever, and I learn a whole new perspective. Like I would have never met Bear if it wasn't for John. And Bear is a pretty cool dude. And his whole community that he sets up is very impressive. So I'm glad I got to return the favor and make a connection for you.
There's a ton of tribes out there, a ton of, tribes, right? And they kind of hover out in these circles, but they don't really cross. So when we can get 1 or 2 or 3 in the area, then it goes back, and now all of a sudden we have access and we build relationships and friendships with all of these other people. And it's like we all know these huge YouTube personalities that have been out there since the beginning of YouTube, and we just have no access to them. And then all of a sudden one of our friends does something with them, and then boom, and you're like, holy shit, where have we been for the last decade, right? We could have been doing this on such a better level. For the last decade, and that's happening rapidly now. The gatekeepers no longer exist. We have access to, when you message my company 24 hours a day and somebody gets back to you, 99% of the time, that's me that gets back to you, and you have access to all of these people just through social media now.
Yeah, it's a whole different approach, and I think the thing I think is cool, and I know maybe Pat can talk to this too, is watching these networks that used to be in separate camps start to overlap more and more and more. When I first came into this world, I just thought there was the survival podcast and that was it. And I didn't realize there was this entire like decades long prepper world that's out there. And then that connected me with that world. And then the homesteader world that I'd been in before came over. So I don't know. It's just in the last 5 years or so, seeing these networks cross over and then seeing the people who are sort of leaders in these networks get more purposeful about crossover has been it's been fun to watch that happen. And I think it's happening at exactly the right time.
Well, the world opens up, right? So I've been in business really 35 years. For the first 25 of those, if you'd have asked me where materials come from, I'd have been like, yeah, piss off. Like, why am I going to help you? But when I meet new people and the first question that is asked is, what can I do for you? Those doors open up now. So like I spent that 20, 25 years not giving people, hey, where does this come from? Where does that come from? Now the question is, hey, this is where this comes from. You're using a material that's not as good as ours. You can buy it at this place. Mm-hmm. All those new guys now, they all have some piece of information because I've been doing what I do for 35 years and not really altered what we did. Whereas new people coming in, even young kids coming into the industry now, they have this brand new way of doing things. And I watch guys on sewing videos and I'm like, man, we've been doing this the hard way for 25 years. We can cut 50% off of this process. But when you meet somebody and the question is, Pat, What can I do to help you do whatever it is you're doing? I know you say the value of the information is the most important and the money is not as important, but how can we double the money that you're making, right? How can we keep doing the same thing, do the ethical thing or the thing that you believe that's really the correct thing in your heart for you and your family and the people that you teach, and then the right audience will show up. But how can we scale that money, right? What can I do for you? And when you ask those questions, that door opens and it usually comes back tenfold.
Yeah. If you got Sky Pirate too, we're good friends. I was at his wedding, and we expect him to be at my upcoming wedding. Sky Pirate both we're very happy with the ownership that we took in this lockpicking and non-destructive community online. Is that we talk all the time, and we say that we start with collaboration, and then when we compete, I see Sky Pirate launching new products, and I go, damn it. And then I message him, I text message him to his direct number, and I go, hey, I'm really proud of you. Great new product. And then I come back to my workshop and I go, shit, I have to come up with a new product. And I love that. And that's way better than going, no one should listen to that guy. You should all listen to me. That just means that everybody is my enemy and I'm out here by myself. And that if I want this skill set to grow, if I want this community to grow, way better to always start with collaboration and then to compete within that collaborative frame instead of going, I hate all of you. Let's compete against each other. But then what happens when I need help or you need help? Do we refuse to help each other? I mean, there is plenty of room at the table for all of us to succeed. And I'm kind of a nerd too. So I looked at it mathematically and I said, if we're going to compete against each other and we're going to try to hurt each other's business efforts, and we both still have enough audience and view and eyeballs and money coming in that we can still survive, well, doesn't that mean that if we collaborated, there would still also be that same amount of room at the table? And there's people I choose to not collaborate with so much. There's people that have projects that I don't really agree with, of course. But I like to always start with collaboration and to foster that as far as I can. And I think that the community will show that that's the status. So if you look up lockpicking on Instagram, we are all more than happy to help. We give free info. We're very active in our DMs. We're all more than happy to point people to each other's courses. I tell people all the time, if you can't train with me, go train with him. If you can train with me, but his class is closer, go take his class. So we're very proud of the fact that we put intentional energy into being collaborative. So yes, that goes quite a long way. I'm right there with you.
Plus the competition, it helps to prevent the stagnation. If you might be the best in your industry, but if you're not competitive with somebody else, that means that you're not aware that they're there. How do you know that you're the tip of the industry, right? How do you know that you're breaking those boundaries?
Well, if you go back to the headspace thing, if you're spending all your time thinking about your competitor and how you can tear them down, you're not building.
Well, your frequency is what you frequently see when you operate out of positivity. And it's almost, I've been saying this for the last 2 years, probably. It's more important what you don't do almost than what you do, right? It's almost more important to remove negativity than even to add positivity.
Except for when you get a troll on TikTok and then you're supposed to interact with them, John.
Well, I mean, we've set an example of that for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But I just don't have time for it now.
Yeah.
Sidetrack. Can you see what she just did here in the background?
Yeah.
My dog Arrow here on the table.
Yeah. Laying
so
down.
Joel says all the time too that some of the biggest compliments we get for our dog training, his dog training that I am honored to be a part of, is we get praised with, oh, it's that your dog doesn't get off the table that's important. It's not that she can jump on the table, she can bite people, she can bark, she can do it. It's often most impressive about the Fortress Canine dogs is what they don't do. They don't have errant bites. They can just lay there and be super high energy, super competitive, super driven, and they just lay there. They don't move. So it's just a pattern I wanted to point out.
Right on.
Yep. Yeah, I know I'm made better by friendly competition with Food Forest Farms, which is another coffee roaster. We use the same technology. And he has connected me with more better wholesale arrangements than anybody else I've ever met.
Cool.
Yeah. When my business was so small, I wasn't ordering a pallet of coffee at a time. another local roaster would let me put like 2 bags on his 12 bag pallet and not charge me shipping, because you get free in air quotes shipping when you ship a whole pallet. And like those little things really help. And it's funny how it's not funny actually, but we were taught never to talk to our competition, and competition is bad, but then at the same time we should tear them down. So
I know the name Food Forest Farms, but I can't picture a face with it. So, but what I would ask is, how many roasters has he caught on fire from roasting such large orders?
That's a great question. He and I were talking about roasting fires today, and he was surprised I had burned out another roaster last week.
Well, we're going to make it a third, so just wait.
Yeah, we're going to work on that, right? Well, okay. And I have the line on a 20-pound, like a bigger roaster right now, cool, for a pretty good price. So I may grab that one before the end of the year, but we'll see if it's done. I said, when it's done, tell me, and then we'll see what I'm going to do. But my roaster, what I've learned about the roasting industry is roaster fires are not unusual because we are heating things. So it's this one I was ready for. So we were back up in a week.
Good.
Yeah. And yeah, so I can ship anybody coffee now. Any another Hollow Roast Kickstarter in the works? Nope.
Why not?
I don't know. I kind of want to do this one myself. It's kind of weird. I do have another Kickstarter idea, but I don't want to talk about it right now. But it's not for the coffee.
Cool.
Yeah. It's more related. I will say it's about the book, but I have to talk to Pat about the book, and he's talked to me about the book too. So I owe you a call in the next couple weeks. Just brainstorming call. Here's the best part about our network is the brainstorming calls. Like I'm a verbalizer. I know everybody's like totally shocked who listens to my podcast to learn that I think when I talk, but having the collaboration or the ability to say, hey, I'm going to run an idea by you in our network is great too. And Pat's a good one to do that with. So.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, well, it looks like we're turning the corner on 2 hours here, guys. Let's go once around the horn and then get ready to see each other in person in just a few weeks. Let's start with you, Pat.
Oh, thank you. Just thrilled to be here. I was thinking about it before the call, and literally just tapping into this community. God, I listened to Spearco even before 2016 when I was in Guantanamo Bay. But I met Tactical Redneck in Guantanamo Bay in person because of this community.
Was he an inmate?
He was a low security prisoner in a high security prison, which is what I called myself too. Because if we left, we were thrown in jail. We didn't have a choice. No, we were both working for the Coast Guard, but with different units at the time, I think. Just being a part of these communities is absolutely life-changing. It's something that I think the modern world is missing just in spades, big time, which is being able to use a community for a positive leverage, for a positive purpose, and not just to take from that community, but to give as much value as you can too. So just thank you both for letting me be here. I love the high level discussions. I love the cool people I get to hang out with, and I'm just honored. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, man.
All right. Well, guys, I'm going to piggyback on that and then let John close it out today because we don't usually do it that direction. And I'm just going to second what Pat has to say. I don't care, like we were talking about competition. I don't care where you go to get out in person with people, whether it is a local mutual assistance group, whether it is a winemaking class in your local community, whether it is traveling from Washington State to Camden, Tennessee to go to Self-Reliance Festival, or the Midwest Preparedness Project, or Kentucky Sustainable Living, or anything at Joel Salatin's Polyface Farm. Like, you will never understand how much the investment is worth it until you do it. And I just encourage you to find your thing. Like, I'm watching Letty in the comments, and she just went to Toolman Tim's meetup that was in, I think it was in Illinois this last weekend. And she is like on fire this week about community and on fire and inspired and starting new things. And watching people do that is why I'm here today. Watching people do that is why I exist. And I also exist to experience it myself. So just get out and do something, guys, and do it before the end of the year. Even if you're if you're telling yourself you can't right now, stop that shit and get out and do something. John, you can close it up.
John Willis, Special Operations Equipment. I do a live every night at 9 o'clock on YouTube. Join in. We have a conversation about literally anything you want to talk about. Walk around the shop, show the gear that's made every day. That's typically the easiest way to buy things. You'll see what actually is available right then when it's available. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, MeWe, Float, Local. We're everywhere, literally. So just jump on. I do some different content most mornings on Instagram and TikTok, and then I've got a membership on YouTube where we have several different podcasts behind the paywall. You don't want to pay for it, no problem. They come out for free 90 days later. But we build that content off of what you guys interact with us. We also have a Patreon where you ask questions and we build custom videos. The video for the day is usually around those comments from that day. We do that once a week. So we can be found anywhere. If you reach out, send an email through the website, it's usually me that replies to that email. And if you hit me up on social media, that's almost always me also. So reach out if you got something to say to us, or if we can do something for you.
We'll see you at Self-Reliance Festival in a few